God is our provider. Yes, 100%. Jehovah Jireh, it's one of my favorite sayings. I listen to that song Jireh all the time, right? God will provide. Uh, at the same time, I also believe that there's a lot of Christians out there who are struggling financially, not just because of the economy, inflation, job losses, but because of we haven't we haven't been a good steward of what God has given us. Okay. So a little background on myself is I've been very, very broke. I mean, to the point where we didn't have water. They turned off our water, okay, and electricity. It was really bad. But I've also taken Financial Peace University with Dave Ramsey. If you don't know Dave Ramsey, he's a financial advisor, one of the most famous financial advisors out there. And I have went through his courses. I'm actually an ELP, endorsed provider with him, and I've taken other financing classes. I've taught classes for finances and budgeting and whatnot. And I'm such a huge believer that I believe there are a lot of Christians, especially here in America, who are struggling not just because like it's just they're not making enough money, but because they haven't been good stewards with what God has given them. And I want you guys to really take this seriously because I think a lot of people are just they complain about the economy and how things are, yet they go on a vacation or two a year. They eat out at restaurants all the time. They buy what they want on Amazon, right? Et cetera, et cetera. And I am one of these as well. Okay. I've been through it all. I've been through the ups and downs, especially when I got married. It was kind of hard to adjust to someone else now being on my budget. But I've been budgeting for several years, and God has given me more and more to steward as this is just my thought. Okay. I feel like God has given me more to steward as I have been better with what he has given me. So let's actually go into the Bible, right? So um, in Proverbs 6 through 8, 11, and 11, the ant stores food in summer and laziness leads to poverty. This is one of the clearest verses for saving and preparation, right? Precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. That's Proverbs 21:20. There's several other verses here, but the point is that one more, right? First Timothy 5:8, a believer should provide for their household. That implies responsibility, not passivity. So as we're like complaining, like, Lord, why aren't, like I'm struggling, like I got to provide for my family. Why aren't we provided for? At the same time, there's a lot of Christians who spend a lot of what they have. And, they didn't save for the summer. They didn't save for rainy days. And they're struggling, especially here in America. There are people in Africa or in North Korea or wherever where they genuinely are struggling. I'm talking you could save all you want, but you can't save when there's really nothing to go around, right? In America, for a lot of us, I would say that is not the case. Okay. In America, there's a lot of people who just haven't been wise. And I understand, listen, I understand that it's a really rough economy. Inflation post COVID has really kicked our butts. The price of steak, I just bought some the other day, was $24 at Trader Joe's when it was like $12 when I used to buy it pre COVID. Okay. So massive changes. And with the Strait of Hormuz, the issues there, we could have even more inflation. But I will tell you that regardless of all this, the people that I have seen being good stewards of their finances are doing okay. They are surviving because they saved for that rainy day. I know a lot of people who have lost their jobs. Super unfortunate. But there are people who have saved for that rainy day. So they are actually able to survive until they get their next job. And I'm not perfect at this, okay? Even for someone who has taught these classes, I am not perfect at budgeting, but I will tell you, this is just my belief. I believe that if we are good stewards with our money, at least if I were, okay, just don't take this too seriously, but if I were God and I had two children, and one of the children, as soon as I gave them something, let's just say I gave them money, they just go spend all of it, right? And then they start complaining, like, why don't I have any money for ice cream? And then I have another kid that I give them the money, they save half of it, they invest some of it, and they give some of it to the poor. Okay. And then they spend the very little on themselves. Who would I give more money to? Who do I believe has more responsibility? Because I'll tell you, if I give more money to the kid that is spoiled and is entitled and who just continues to spend, again, in the Bible, it says that the uh, that a precious treasure and oil are in a wise man's dwelling, but a foolish man devours it. Okay. Um, if I continue to give to that kid, I'm going to ruin that kid. Okay. Money can ruin people. Money, what it does is it exposes what is truly inside them. Okay. I wasn't necessarily good with money, but I got good with money because I knew that I had to be a good steward of his money. And as I became a better steward, I believe that God gave me more to be responsible for. So my encouragement to you guys is I know the times are tough. Yes, I believe in Jehovah Jireh that God will provide. And at the same time, I do believe that we are called to be, as Christians, providers for the family and to be good stewards of the resources that God gave us. Yeah, I understand we are not making enough money to be able to save, and I get that. But we can go out to less restaurants. We don't have to go to a vacation every single year. You know what I'm saying? Like me and my wife, we have the money to go on vacation, but times have been tough for my career, and so I don't go on vacations. Do I have the money? Do I have a lot of investments to take from? Of course I do, but I try not to touch them so I could be a good steward of God's money, right? So that's my encouragement, guys. I'm happy to post several verses to encourage you guys, but I really encourage you guys to be a good steward of your money. What that concludes to is you need to start budgeting. If you don't have a plan for your money, plan for your money to run away from you. That's what Dave Ramsey always says. I'm a huge believer of that. You have to be budgeting, especially in times like these. If you're not budgeting, then, I mean, even though you may not be a spender, it's just there's so many things that I've learned over budgeting. And sometimes people just try to take money from you. I mean, there are people who have charged me on my accounts that I found out by budgeting. And you just would never know if you didn't check. So and one of the things I will say, there's a free app. I literally created a free app using AI. It's called ibudgeteasy.com. The only thing you have to pay for is connecting to Plaid, because you have to actually pay for Plaid. It's not a free service even for me, so I got to pay for Plaid. But it's a free service. It's a really easy budgeting app. I created it exactly to the way I wanted it. You could try it, or try any other budgeting app. There's so many out there, right? You could even use a spreadsheet. I'll give you a template to a Google Sheet that I've used for several years that works really well. So anyway, I just encourage you guys for this, and yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video.